Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the Spurs Takeover. And we are going to be joined by our good friend Jonas Clark as the Spurs survive a close one against the Pelicans. And they ink out a win, 121 to 117. And the Spurs, I believe now, they're going to be in that eighth spot out in the West because the Memphis Grizzlies lost their second game in a row. And the Spurs almost lost this one in the fourth quarter thanks to a lackluster defensive stance once again in the fourth quarter. And, Zion Williamson went off, dude. He had 4 3-pointers and almost single-handedly won this game for the Pelicans. So if there was any doubt that this kid had some game, I think he put that to rest tonight because he looked good. It's like he flipped a switch in that fourth quarter. He said, all right, guys, I'm going to play for real now. Thank God they took him out of the game and they sat him down for that minutes restriction, because if they would have kept him in, I think this would have went the other way because that momentum was in favor of the Pelicans. The Spurs were looking pretty bad, man, until you said we had Marco Bellinelli make a three, and he said he was the savior for the Spurs. So I want to hear this, man. Let me hear it, Jonas. Go ahead and let us know what you think of Marco.
Well, I just think, Joe, that he was the savior for the Spurs night, for the fact of Zion goes on that streak. He scored 17 straight points in the fourth quarter. He's at the free throw line getting MVP chance. And he was about 2, maybe 3 3-pointers kind of in a row that he had hit, and like you said, Joe, the momentum was swinging in favor of the Pelicans, and then Marco Bellinelli, of all people, kind of steps up and just drains a three from deep.
So let me hear this straight, Jonas. You're saying thank God for Marco Bellinelli.
I'm saying for tonight, Joe, thank God.
I know, man. You got to claim your boy. You got to claim your boy. You can't pick and choose.
He's not my boy.
Look,
but
we got an incoming call. Let's see who this is. And thank you for calling the Spurs Takeover. Who are we talking to? Hello. Thank you for calling the Spurs Takeover. This is Joe. Who are we talking to?
What's up, Joe? It's your boy, Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy. What's up, man?
Hey, man. I'm calling from the East Coast, checking you guys out. Just got finished watching the game.
Representing, man.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. Look, man, I just want to say this. I'm so pissed at Pop. Because even though Zion went off, but it was because, why did he switch to the zone? There was no need to switch to the zone at the point that he did. And that's why Zion went off. He had 4 extremely wide open 3-pointers. Like, come on, man. Sometimes you got to stop outthinking yourself. We had them. We were playing them straight up, and we're doing a pretty good job. We're up 12, 13 points, whatever the points were. And then he switches to the zone and gives life to the team. Like, come on, man. Pop, sometimes you just got to do what got you there. And tonight he almost cost us the game as a result of that. And I'm so pissed off because we controlled that game all night. ESPN was hurt. They didn't know what to do because we were winning, and all they could do was talk about Zion. And then he goes off, and then that was it. And I'm just very disappointed in Pop's effort, but give credit to Marco because he did hit that three that quelled all that momentum, and then we got back in and were able to take it down there, and also thank Jesus that Alvin Gentry had the balls to pull Zion out of the game.
Thank God for him pulling Zion out. If he didn't put Zion out, that this game could have easily went the other way. But
exactly.
I want to say something to you, man, and this is something that I've observed over the last 2 games. The Spurs have had fourth quarter collapses, and it's a fourth quarter collapse on the defensive front. And to me, that just steams and screams everything from a lack of communication out there on the court. If they were able to communicate more effectively, I think that they could kind of tighten up their defense, because they run that zone, and when they run that zone, that's where they get in trouble. They get these mismatches, and and specifically Bryn Forbes, Marco Beninelli, Patty Mills. When you have these undersized guards, and in one, Marco Beninelli, who is notoriously non-effective from a defensive standpoint.
Right.
I mean, this is just a recipe for disaster. And to me, there's no place for Marco and Bryn on the same floor, on the court, in crunch time in the fourth quarter. Why would you do that?
No, I agree 100%. And the one thing about a zone, especially a 2-3 zone that they play, is that you have to be decisive in the zone that you're covering. And the problem is, none of them, like you said, Marco or Bryn, and even Patty to an extent, but more so Marco and Bryn, they don't have the defensive instincts to be as decisive when they're covering that zone. So that's why they get caught so many times, because they're cheating one way when they're not supposed to. They're cheating up into the other person's zone. I watched it, and it was killing me. Like, I don't know if you know, but I coached for a long time. I coached in middle and high school. So when I watch these games, I watch it from a coach's standpoint. And I'm down here yelling at the TV. My wife is upstairs. She comes down like, what's going on? But it's because I'm calling it out. Before it even happens, I see what's getting ready to happen. And that's why I was so upset with Pop even going into that zone, because I felt like we had the game, we had the game in hand at that point. You should just do what got you there and continue with your good rotations. You can't play. We could be great in the zone if you have any combination of White, Walker, or DeJounte at the top.
Yeah, I got
But if you put those, like you said, Marco, any combination of Marco, Bryn, and Patty at the top, then that's what's going to kill us. So, it just frustrates me with Pop. But what I will say is I'm happy we got the win, our first 3-game winning streak since the beginning of the season. We got a good chance of beating Phoenix on Friday. And hopefully we can get some momentum and start moving up the ranks, because they have been playing a lot better. I mean, even what's this, like the last 6 straight games they've had the lead going into the fourth quarter?
That they have.
So, I mean, they've been playing better. They just have to execute down the stretch to be able to close these games out.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at. Let me ask you one more question before I leave, because I need to work in the morning.
Sure.
But do you think if we can continue to stay in the 8th spot and move up and play well, do you think there's a move coming either via buyout or deadline to kind of shore up that wing position? Because obviously Damari's not playing. So we need to get somebody in there because I don't think if we get into the playoffs we can survive with Brent starting.
Well, that's a good question, because I think really what's going to happen is the Spurs are just going to stand pat. When I looked at the payroll, and I've seen that, it's on Basketball Reference for anybody who wants to check it out, and you see what the payouts are over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, and then you have LMA all but signed, and guaranteed for next season. You have only so much to work with, and then we're paying Paul Gasol $5 million, and he's not even on the team anymore.
Oh, yeah,
so
I forgot about that.
You have all these factors going against you, and then you have DeMarre Carroll signed for a 3-year deal, which, 2 of those years are guaranteed, with the 3rd year being an option. And next year, his paycheck will go up. We owe him $7 million this year. Next year, I think it balloons to something around maybe $9 or $10 million. So that's a head scratcher, man. You're not playing him. There's rumors saying that he might have some knee injuries, and he's a better defender than Marco, although he is slower. So you have that. There's a lot of decisions that do need to be made. One of those decisions to me is, are you going to keep DeMar DeRozan, who's been your most consistent player? The wing position, I think the future of that position is going to be filled by somebody over in the Austin Spurs in the G League right now. So that's still about another 2-3 seasons out. But to answer your questions, I think the Spurs are just going to stand pat this season.
All right. Well, we need to, we need to just keep winning. And I think that, like I said, if they can shore up that defense some kind of way and we can get into the playoffs, we can be a dangerous team, because we've shown we can beat the best teams in the league. We can hang with them.
Doubt.
We just got to be able to execute the full 48. So we'll see. But good show as usual, bro. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you again on the next one.
Definitely, man. Thanks for calling. We appreciate you, man. You take care now.
Have a good one. All right.
You too. All right, Jonas. Well, we just had our caller here, Jimmy. So thanks to Jimmy for calling in and being part of the show. Basically, he was just, voicing his concerns, and he was kind of upset with Coach Pop and his coaching in the fourth quarter. I kind of agree with him to a certain extent, but I don't put all the blame on Coach Pop. I think that has more to do with the personnel who's out there on the court, Jonas. And as we stated, the Spurs in the last two games, they've just had defensive collapses. I mean, you were talking about your boy Marco Beninelli, and I told you can't claim him half the time. You either like him or you don't. So what is it, man?
I'm not making a claim for Marco Bellinelli at all. All I'm saying is that tonight he is the one that put the dagger in Zion's streak.
So you're gonna check him out like a book, like a library book, man?
No, I'm still ready to dump him for a sack of potatoes. But like I said, thank God we had him tonight, because I don't know who else was going to make that shot. Nobody else could sink anything to steal the momentum away from what Zion was doing there, bringing his point total up to 22 points. Like I said, with 17 of those consecutively.
Yeah, that's enough.
It's just for most of the game, and that's, I mean, I know that Pelicans fans we're going to be hearing it, and I've still got the national broadcast on in the background over here, and they're still all over Zion's performance, even in the loss. But good for Pelicans fans, right? They had all the AD drama last year. Then you get Zion. Then he gets hurt in the summer. Then he gets hurt again in the fall. They finally got to see their number one pick play out for them, take the court. And for a large part of the game, I was actually quite impressed, Joe. I don't know about you. I was quite impressed with the Spurs for handling the spotlight, for handling the magnitude of the situation. I set out on Twitter earlier that the Spurs haven't been able over the last couple of years to handle these big, just emotional games. You look at Manu's jersey retirement night, and that one was a close win against the Cavaliers.
Tony Parker retirement jersey.
Tony's, and we lost that one, if I'm not mistaken, to the Grizzlies on Veterans Day. Like, this one for me had all the writing on the wall for the Spurs to get caught up in the moment, get stuck watching Zion play as a spectator in the moment, as opposed to being his opponent. I was relieved to see them come out the gate and really start running well and holding Zion scoreless in his first 6 minutes or whatever that he played in the first quarter. He didn't score his first basket till the second quarter. And then, of course, the fourth quarter is when everything went off the rails. But good for Pelicans fans, because you've been watching all the other picks play, except for, of course, Luka and Keldon. They're playing at the G League level, but most of the NBA does play their rookies right out the gate. Ja Morant had a great year. And he was the number 2 pick. Cam Reddish has done pretty well this year. So, and even Tyler Hero over in Miami. Everybody else got to watch their picks play, and here you had the number 1 pick overall, and you saw nothing from him. So good for Pelicans fans. They believe they have their MVP if you buy the hype of all their chants and everything that the Four Letter Network has been throwing down throwing in your face the last 24 hours, and will continue for the next week.
Yeah, we got some people here on Periscope on Twitter. Spurs Star says, got lucky again. Zion was taken out of the game. Whew! I'm like, yes, you are correct. We did get very lucky. If he would have stayed in and he kept on, just dropping some threes on us, this game could have easily gone the other way, because at that point, the momentum was with the Pelicans, not with the Spurs. Mm-hmm. Michael DeLeon, who's here watching as well on Twitter, he puts, Derek played well tonight. That he did. Derek White did play really well tonight.
Really well.
And Spurs Star on Twitter says, just imagine if the Spurs lost. Oh my, the Zion hype. I was just hoping that none of our guys were going to get posterized by Zion Williamson. I put a funny Twitter poll out there, and the lone wolf Spurs fan said, this is a trash poll. Man, it's just all in good fun, dude. I said, who do you think was going to get dunked on first? And I was putting the usual suspects, Bryn, I put Marco Beninelli. I put Patty Mills because they're the smaller guys on the team, except for Marco. Marco is just trash defensively. So those were my picks. But lo
So
and
is
behold,
Bryn, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah. But lo and behold, nobody got dunked on. We survived and we pulled out a win on the road. And the Spurs have now won. What is it? Two games, 3 games in a row now.
3 in a row. Jordan Houndstein of the Spurs PR put it out there, of course. This is the Spurs' first 3-game winning streak since we started the season. Well, we started the season 3-0, right? Until we ended up dropping one to the Clippers. And, we've got it's not easy walking from here. And we're getting ready to go into the rodeo road trip. So
that we are.
Build the momentum while you can. I'm not gonna, dump on a win streak. A win streak's a win streak. It's 3 games in a row, and it's been hard fought. So enjoy. I mean, we gotta enjoy tonight, right?
That we do. Let me go ahead and read off some of the stats for tonight's game because I'm looking at the information from the box score that I received right now. And I'm going to say, LaMarcus Aldridge had a great night. He had 32 points. He had 2 assists. He had 1 steal, and he had 14 rebounds. You had DeMar DeRozan, who was having a quiet game up until the second half of this one. He finished the game with 20 points. He had 1 assist, and he had 5 rebounds. Then we go back down to DeJounte Murray, who's either, kind of been hit or miss, but he's on the upside of his points production tonight. DeJounte Murray had 13 points on the night. He had 2 assists, and he had 5 rebounds. Now we look at Derek White. Derek White had 12 points on the night, 7 assists, and he had 4 rebounds. So he had an overall, decent game, So you got some good production from your bench, and you got some production from your starting 5 that played heavy minutes in tonight's game. And let me see what your boy Blocka Portal did tonight, Jonas. Anytime you get any points from Jakob, it's a plus. Jakob finished the night with 6 points, and he had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. So,
there it is.
There it is. He had a great night again. Blocka Portal, man. That's your boy.
He is, and I was really disappointed to see him only get 13 minutes, Joe. I understand that LaMarcus was having one hell of a night. I mean, he really did, and to that point, without getting too far off, moments like tonight and LaMarcus's consistency, I've said that multiple times on here with you before, Joe, is why I think he's so valuable to this team, is you hold on to him because just his ability to score consistently against really all kinds of talent. He handled his own there on the defensive end. He picked up a couple blocks himself, from 2 blocks himself, and crashed the boards. I just feel like when you're going up against a set like Jackson Hayes and Zion Williamson and even Derek Favors, you just have to have a little bit more of Jakob in there because there's going to be driving to the hoop. I understand that most of Zion's damage was done from outside. He was just 4 for 4 from the perimeter. But when you go to that stronger defensive set, Jakob has to be out there. 13 minutes is just it's not enough.
Yeah, it's not, but it's kind of tough for him at times, to find some playing time because Pop is going to go with Trey Lyles to, play alongside LaMarcus Aldridge notoriously. And when he comes out, that's when you insert one Jakob Portal, or when, LaMarcus Aldridge needs a breather, that's when you're going to insert Jakob Portal.
And they weren't really guard heavy tonight.
Yeah, they were not.
Mentioned multiple times that they played with 4 guards. You just had LaMarcus out there as the only big, and you had like Derek and DeJounte and DeRozan and Patty at times, and it was just, I don't know. It was interesting lineups to see from Pop tonight.
It's always interesting lineups. That has been one of the things that Spurs fans have clamored about on social media, specifically
and
on
Pop,
Twitter.
I trust, though.
You and Chris Duel, man. I swear, dude. Y'all are in Pop we trust. Pop can do no wrong. I get it, man. He's well respected. I have great admiration for Coach Pop.
Not that he can't do any wrong. He just he has the banners.
He has the hardware.
He calls scoreboard every time.
Yeah,
I can't argue with that. Who am I to tell Greg Popovich that he's not doing things right when I've never won a championship in my life?
Yeah, I got you, man. I hear you on that end. But sometimes we have to be critical of his decision making from time to time, which some of his decisions have been head scratchers this season. We'll just leave it at that, because lo and behold, if I say anything and I wind up getting roasted on social media, so I'm just going to leave it there. But let's go ahead and look at some of the team stats for the night. And then we're going to go ahead and compare the Pelicans and the Spurs. Let's go ahead and start with the field goal percentage. Field goal percentage went in favor of the Spurs tonight. They shot 50.6% from the field, connected on 45 of 89 of their field goal attempts. The Pelicans shot 46.4% on the night and connected on 39 of 84 of their field goal attempts. Now, shooting from beyond the arc, the Spurs shot 40.7%. They connected on 11 out of 27 of their three-point attempts. The New Orleans Pelicans, they connected on 14 out of their 36 three-point attempts from beyond the arc and shot 38.9% from the three. Free throw percentage, that went in favor of the Spurs tonight. Just by a few percentage points, Spurs beat the Pelicans by shooting 80% versus the Pelicans shooting 78.1% on the night from the stripe. Spurs connected on 20 of 25 of their free throw attempts, whereas the Pelicans, they went to the stripe more because of Zion Williamson, and they connected on 25 of 32 of their free throw attempts. Rebounding battle was almost even. Spurs did get the edge over the Pelicans in that regards, 44-41. And assist, those were in favor of the Pelicans. The Pelicans shared the ball a little bit more effectively than the Spurs tonight, as they had 26 assists on the night compared to the Spurs 17. Now, this is the one area that I always look at closely, turnovers. The Pelicans had more turnovers than the Spurs tonight. Pelicans had 14, Spurs had 11. Another telling fact is always the points in the paint. Points in the paint tonight, you're not going to believe this, Jonas. Dead even at 46, man. That's amazing. Each team had 46 points in the paint, which means that they were both on. They were both very aggressive in the interior, going at each other's defenses and getting to the stripe. As we saw, they both went 20-plus times to the stripe tonight. So fast break points, though, that's going to be in favor of the Pelicans. They got out there and they ran the ball more efficiently than the Spurs did, as the fast break points favored the Pelicans 15-4. So there you have it. In a nutshell, Spurs did what they had to do to ink out a win on the road against the Pelicans. So now that they have that 8th seed, or that 8th spot right now for the time being, let's hope they can capitalize and continue to get more wins, because they're coming back home to face the Phoenix Suns on Friday. And last time they met the Suns, they had, I guess you could say they had a decent game. So we're going to hope that they can continue that trend. So what are your predictions for that Friday game coming up?
Well, we've beat the Suns twice now this season, once in Mexico City, once in Phoenix. I would expect the Spurs to continue to roll with this. You've got a day of rest tomorrow. Then, of course, you've got the Suns. You're also kind of starting to prepare. I know you take it one opponent at a time, but you can't overlook the Raptors coming into town again then on Sunday. And that rodeo road trip keeps inching closer. Every game that we play is one more game closer to that stretch. I like the matchup for whatever reason. We have really good competitive games against the Suns. Maybe they get up more for the game, or we just approach it as a game we should win, and we're not quite the team, the Spurs of 2014 anymore. But I think that it's going to be a good game. Look for a win. That's what I would say, Joe. And listeners of the Two Shots podcast can go see the game Friday, yeah?
Yeah, they can go see the game because we just put out a great ticket deal that we have in conjunction with Project Spurs and Game Day Media, because we have partnered with the San Antonio Spurs this season, and we are offering a great ticket deal for Friday's game. You can see the link on all our social media handles, but more specifically, you can check it out right now on Twitter, so just go ahead and click on that link that we included on the pinned tweet, and you can go ahead and get access to your tickets starting at just $19.50. That includes your food, either a hot dog or a nacho. You get a drink, and you also get early access to the game to enjoy the courtside experience and watch the players warm up before the game. I believe that's an hour before the game. So then you can also, little known fact, you get in early. You can go and stand by the escalators and then bum rush the place when they let us in to get a nice seat over there by the fan zone, so you're not uncomfortable in those tiny little chairs that are made for children, not for adults. So
I'm a grown man.
Yeah, because if I was sitting next to you, Jonas, we'd be rubbing elbows, man. Let's face facts. So I love you, brother, but I don't want to be rubbing elbows with you, man. I want to be able to drink my beer comfortably.
I hear you.
All right,
so
man.
how do you think that the Suns matchup on Friday is going to go?
I think it's going to be interesting. The Spurs are coming off a high, beating the Pelicans in tonight's matchup, and I think, sometimes it's tough to get up for a game such as this on a national scale, because this was the game of the night. Everybody had their eyes on this game because of Zion. Now, when it's kind of like you're on an adrenaline rush, and then when you come off of that, sometimes it's hard for you to get up for the next opponent. So if the Spurs can get this win against the Suns and they make that 4 in a row, man, that would really be a confidence booster there, because this would be their biggest winning streak of the year, and just in time, before they hit the road for the rodeo road trip. So to me, this is a very pivotal game for the Spurs, even though it is against the Suns. From a mental aspect and from momentum, this is something that they must have. So hopefully they can get up for it.
If I need to get the Spurs up for this game on Friday, all I got to do is show them the standings. The Suns are at the 11th seed. Going into tonight, the Spurs are at the 9th seed. We're only 2 games ahead of them right now. You've got to create as much space as possible. This is an opportunity to not just do a half game. This is an opportunity to put them behind a full game in the standings. And last year, we remember how close the race got as the final stretch of the season took place. And the Spurs could have ended up anywhere from the 4th seed to even the 11th seed then, and had found themselves on the outside of the playoffs looking in. And fortunately, they took care of business and made the playoffs for, 22nd consecutive season. But these games are what matter now, because you're going to lose that opportunity to keep setting space between. We only got one more game against the Suns this season, since this will be game 3 in the 4-game series. That's all you got to tell them to get them up for this game, you would think, right?
You would think, but we'll just have to see what happens when they match up against the Suns on Friday. There's really not much you can tell them other than just win. If you wanna make a run for that playoff spot, you got to just keep winning, because let's face it, you have the Suns nipping at your heels, and then in front of you, you had the Memphis Grizzlies, who lost 2 in a row. You're winning right now. The Spurs, they won their 3rd game in a row, which means they claimed that 8th spot right now. But then you have the Memphis Grizzlies right on your heels as well. So,
and the Blazers.
You got to keep winning, man. I mean, anything can happen with this second leg of the season, and we're getting also near the All-Star break, because the All-Star break hits at the latter part of the rodeo road trip. So that's an interesting aspect as well, because I think that's what prolongs this road trip and makes it seem even longer than it actually is, because you have the All-Star break right in the middle. Then you go to the All-Star break, so you have that weekend off. Then you come back, and I believe you have 2 games that you have to play to finish off your rodeo road trip. Then you come back to San Antonio, and dude, February's almost all but gone already at that point. So.
Yeah. And you've got the Thunder at the end of that rodeo road trip, who, believe it or not, sit right in front of you in the standings at the 7th seed. A lot of stuff can happen between now and then. There's still some basketball to be played. But like you said, Joe, it starts this Friday against the Suns.
That it does. So make sure you all go and take a look at that ticket link. Like I said, it's only $19.50 for your tickets, and it's a great time. This is going to be a good game. Especially on Fridays. Come on, man. You get to take in the live band out there at the Bud Light Courtyard, enjoy some adult beverages after the game.
No work the next morning.
No work the next morning. And they put on a good show at halftime, too. When you're outside in that Bud Light Courtyard, you get to hear the live band perform then. Then you just, little known facts, stay out by the Bud Light Courtyard, let the crowd dissipate, enjoy something to eat, something to drink, and you can watch the game right there. It's like you're being at a sports bar. You know, just chill, then go to your seat for a little bit, then come back, beat the crowd before the fourth, pick out your little area, and then listen to the live band and enjoy the evening, man. It's always a good time, and it's family-friendly, too, so you can bring the kids. So
nice. We'll
go ahead and end it right there, Jonas, because I know everybody has to get up and get ready to go to work tomorrow. But before we... Oh, look, we're getting a call right now. Let me see who this is. Hi, and thank you for calling the Spurs Takeover. This is Joe Garcia. Who are we talking to? Thank you for calling the Spurs Takeover. This is Joe. How can we help you, sir or madam? No. We had somebody for a split second there, Jonas.
They probably...
Hold on. Thank you for calling the Spurs Takeover. This is Joe. Who are we talking to? Hello? Well, I don't know who that was.
Well, no better place to wrap it than there, huh, Joe?
I guess so, man. I tried, man. I tried.
Try to squeeze them in. You're a good man.
Yeah, I tried to squeeze them in. I'm going to try one more time. Let me try to see if I can call him back. I hate not being able to get in contact with someone.
I hear you.
All right, well. There we go. Now it's making the... Hey, this is Joe of the Spurs Takeover. Who do we have the pleasure of talking to?
This is Wesley Perkins.
Hey, Wesley.
Up, Joe?
Hey, what is up, my friend?
How's it
going?
How
good.
Are you?
So, what do you got to say about tonight's game?
Oh, well, again, kind of a nail-biter at the end with giving up the big lead, but we've seen them kind of weather the storms in fourth quarters, and again, I know you're going to agree with me. Jakob Poeltl is just a beast underneath, and really starting to come in the middle part of the game and control the paint. You're seeing some just a little bit more understanding from each player about what their role is, and you're seeing definitely some growth from the point guard position from both DeJounte and from Derek White. So all in all, a really good win, especially with all the hype surrounding this game and kind of curtailing some of that pizzazz that was being given towards the Pelicans for this one coming in.
Yeah, definitely, man. We're just glad. Me and Jonas are just glad, Wesley, that the Spurs were able to survive Zion's barrage of threes in the fourth quarter, and they did us a favor and sat him down and rested him, because at that point the momentum was all in the Pelicans' favor, and the Spurs were looking like they might lose this one. So we're very fortunate that we pulled out a win, a much needed win at that on the road. So we're looking forward.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think Bill Schoening was talking about it. I'm driving from going to Walgreens, but Bill was talking about the fact that Zion in college had never made more than 3 3-pointers in a game. So this is definitely a first for him, and not known as a long-range shooter. But, kudos to the guy for putting on a show. I mean, I know the fans wanted to see that, and it's great for the NBA. It really is. And, he's going to be a force for a long time, and there's no doubt about that. But, next time maybe he'll open his eyes, though. Ha!
Yeah, man. He put on a show. He flipped the switch, and he gave the fans what they were looking for right before he went out. So if that tells you anything about this team, is that Zion Williamson is the real deal, and he's going to entertain us, for the foreseeable future. And future looks bright for the Pelicans. I'm glad that they're on the upside of things right now, because God knows that this team has, been circling the drain for quite some time. So this inflection of energy and, the energy that they bring every night to the fans, especially with the electrifying Zion Williamson, is something that we as Spurs fans can appreciate.
Let me ask you a question, Joe. Why do you think it is that Lonzo Ball always picks the Spurs to light up? I swear to you, he never shoots three-pointers well against anybody except the San Antonio Spurs. But he's kind of showing a bit of growth, all kidding aside. And you're right about the Pelicans having an upside. And I feel like those acquisitions that they got are only going to serve them in the future to go along with Zion too.
Yeah, I think Lonzo Ball has great three-point shooting performances against the San Antonio Spurs, because the Spurs, for whatever reason, they just have defensive collapses, and when they have these defensive collapses and they don't have anybody to really be that 3-and-D player, and really go out there and guard that three, you have players like, Lonzo Ball and a handful of others who get up for the Spurs and just start knocking down shots, especially from beyond the arc, and it's because it's a lack of defense, so it is what it is on that end. We saw the Spurs defensive collapse again this fourth quarter, as we did in the last game, and hopefully that's something that they can work on and correct, because they have another game coming up this Friday, Wesley, and that's going to be against the Phoenix Suns, and it's a pivotal game because we're coming near the rodeo road trip, and you want to be on the upside of things and have some momentum going into that rodeo road trip, as me and Jonas had talked about. But I'm going to have to go ahead and bring the show to a close, Wesley. So in closing here, share your final thoughts.
Again, continued rise and development from our young players. Extremely happy to see that. Closing in at the 500 mark, three games under the 500 mark again, and you're right, Joe, just coming up to the rodeo road trip in the near future, playing well on the road at the right time. So I feel like this game was yet another good test for them, and something that they needed to win, and they showed a lot of mettle down the stretch.
I agree with you, Wesley. Hey, man, thank you for the call. I mean, next time maybe you can join us, as a usual, guest of ours on Skype, and hopefully, everything goes good with your boy, okay?
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Not a problem.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Jonas. So before we go ahead and end the show, where can the peeps get a hold of you on social media?
Joe, at Jark Clonas on Twitter, at JARKCLONAS on Twitter. Anything hashtag #BlockAPertle. Anything Austin Spurs, San Antonio Spurs, of course, San Antonio Rampage. I support SAFC, though I'm just starting to really understand soccer as far as the nuances of the sport go, not just as a casual fan. And, of course, NFL. My favorite team being the Browns.
You know what? I was so excited about talking about the Pelicans game with you. I failed to even turn on my beautiful light bar over here. I had it off the whole time. Oh, well, it's one of those things. So we're going to go ahead and come to a close here for the Spurs Takeover. And before we do, make sure you go and check out all the great stuff that Project Spurs and the Project Spurs Network are cranking out. Specifically, if you need any and all your Spurs information, make sure you go ahead and check out Project Spurs. And for your local sports coverage, make sure you check out the Project Spurs Network. So they have a great group of guys out there that deliver quality content, including our including our good friend Steven Anderson. And Benjamin Bornstein. So make sure you go and check out all their great stuff. So for Jonas Clark, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you for listening to and watching another episode of the Spurs Takeover. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, and be kind. We're out. Peace.